Hello again. This is the last part of the love talk. This is Charlie. She wanted to say hi. We call her Charles just to confuse her. So, okay. There you go, Charles. Thanks for visiting. All right. So, we are going to talk about love and violence. How do you avoid violence in relationships? First and most important thing is through self-love, because anybody who truly loves themselves is not going to be violent toward another person. Coming from that, and I'm talking about a state of love, not a feeling of love, because most of us, I don't think, feel loving toward ourselves all the time. You can still be in a state of love, meaning that you forgive yourself when you make mistakes and you forgive other people when they do as well. And so being in a state of love, you won't be violent toward someone else. And I talked in our intro lecture about being kind. So you be kind to yourself, you be kind to others, and there's no violence. However, most people don't live in that state of love all the time. So how do you get better at being in that state of love? And it takes practice. So another topic that Nick Arandas talked about was the importance of practicing calming your mind. And he talked about great basketball players like Kobe Bryant, who was so good at shooting, and he just would practice day after day after day, and just free throw after free throw after free throw. Try to say that 3 times fast. Free throw. It's really hard. I only can make 2. So you just got to practice. And same with Michael Jordan. If you saw The Last Dance, you know he would practice, especially when he was struggling and feeling like he wasn't doing as well. He would get out there after, 10 o'clock at night, he's practicing. So to practice having a calm mind, you have to be able to observe yourself and notice when you're reacting to something, when you have a strong visceral reaction to something. So you're super angry and you want to lash out. And this is verbally and physically. And you want to lash out, and instead you step back within yourself and you just kind of watch and go, okay, and you take some deep breaths, breathe, don't say anything. Just pause. If you pause, that helps quiet your mind. Breathing helps quiet your mind. So instead of listening to a story in your head about how this person's wrong and how could they do this, you just calm yourself. And then you can watch, and you can then react more appropriately. So it's never appropriate to lash out at someone because you're extremely angry or extremely upset. And it's also not okay to do that to yourself. So you don't want to harm yourself either because you're really upset. You want to just be able to come from that calm place and just trust that it's going to be okay. And you can talk to somebody who you're having a conflict with once you're calm. And again, super important to take time outs. So that's another technique, is to take a time out, which means you just walk away from that person or that child. If you have a very small child, maybe you can't walk away from them, but you don't have to say anything. When you're really upset, you have to have the self-control. We get so mad at our kids for not being in control, and then we have no self-control. You have to have the self-control to not yell at them or to not hit them, especially because how motivated are you to make changes when someone makes you feel bad? You're much more motivated when someone encourages you and helps you feel good. So the other thing is, notice what you're taking in. If you're taking in a lot of violent images, you're through the media, you're playing violent games, you're listening to violent music. I mean, that's all fine in small doses, but if you're starting your day just looking at the news right now or looking at social media and there's conflict and all of that, it doesn't set a really good tone. So I would find something that you can do to start and end your day that's peaceful. Maybe listen to some peaceful music, maybe watch a cute animal video. It doesn't matter what it is. It just matters that it helps you connect with that quiet center of yourself, your true self, and get out of your ego for a little bit. And if you start the day that way and you end the day that way, it's much easier to be that way throughout the day. So remember that anybody who's violent They are taking their feelings that they feel bad about within themselves, and they're lashing out at other people. So if they're feeling insecure or they're feeling hurt and then they are violent towards somebody else, they are taking that emotion that's really not tolerable and putting it out there on that other person. And notice anybody who's violent, or anytime you've been violent, how are you really feeling about yourself in that moment? Not very good. But instead of focusing on yourself and how you're feeling on yourself, you're taking that anger and you're focusing on the other person. So it's really important to come back and recognize, well, what was triggered in me? What am I feeling? Oh, I'm feeling helpless, or I'm feeling out of control. So the answer isn't to take that out on someone else. The answer is to understand that you're struggling. You may not even know. Remember the I don't know technique as well. You may not know why you're feeling so strongly and so upset. So step back within yourself, and you need to get okay with yourself. It's never about the other person, ever. No matter what they're doing, it's not about them. It's about you figuring out, how do I react to this in the most loving way possible toward them and me? Which doesn't mean, again, that you take the abuse. You may need to protect yourself. Self-defense, you may need to hit somebody or push them away or do something to protect yourself. I mean, that's understandable. But that's different than initiating a violent act because you're upset. Okay. And you just want to own your own shit. So instead of figuring out what's wrong with everybody else, work on yourself. I mean, really, we all have so much work that we can do, and we spend all this time criticizing or judging other people. So just keep working on yourself, but do it through love. You don't want to judge yourself. And if you notice you're judging yourself, recognize that that's not loving. And when you're not being loving to yourself, you're not going to be a loving presence in the world either. So it is the most loving thing to do toward other people. Loving yourself is the most loving thing you can do for other people. So that means you take care of yourself. And instead of expecting other people to take care of you, other people to do things for you, do it for yourself. And then when other people do it, it's a bonus. So you don't have to expect that from other people if you're doing it for yourself. And if you do want something, speak up and say it. But then also recognize that the other person has a right to not do it too. But you can always do it for yourself. So that's the beauty of taking care of yourself, whether you're in a relationship or not, is that you don't need anyone else to do it for you. All right. So I want you to think of a time when you recognize that you really felt out of control. And what was going on? Like, how were you feeling about yourself at that time? And if you don't know how you were feeling, like right when you lashed out, you can think about how you were feeling after you acted violently or said something that wasn't nice to somebody, whatever it was. Because you know what? We're working on having kindness with our words as well as our actions and with our thoughts, because you've got to notice those unkind thoughts to not then act on them and do the unkind action. So think of a time when you were unkind or you were hurtful or you yelled. Figure out how you were feeling about yourself. Like in my example with my son that I gave when I went and grabbed his DS. I felt out of control. I felt angry and I just felt like I lashed out. And so I was feeling like a really crappy parent at the time. So that's when you do something like that. That's when an apology and an effort to not do that again. Because you can apologize and apologize and apologize. If nothing changes, what's the point? You got to really work on changing and practice every day coming from that state of love with your partner, with your friends, your family, and practice having boundaries, because it is not self-loving to be taken advantage of. It's not self-loving to be in an abusive relationship or allow people to yell at you. And there's something really important to understand with some of you probably have someone in your life who maybe is narcissistic or even sociopathic, and they just don't have empathy for other people. So with them, there's like nothing you can really say that will help them understand you. So if you're in a relationship with someone like that and they yell at you, let's say they're verbally abusive, but not physically, and they're yelling at you or they're criticizing you or they put you down constantly, there's nothing you can say that will help them understand how that feels for you, because they don't really care. I mean, honestly, they don't care. They care about themselves and about controlling other people or manipulating other people. So in that case, there's an acronym called JADE, and it stands for justify, argue, defend, or explain. And there's no point in doing any of those things with a narcissistic or sociopathic person. The thing you want to do is just be factual. So if someone's criticizing you, you can say, that's not true. That's all you have to do. You don't explain to them, well, you know, that's not true because yesterday I did do this chore, even though you're saying that I'm lazy, I actually did this and this and this. It doesn't work with a narcissist or a sociopathic personality. So you don't have to explain yourself, but you do need to stand up for yourself and just say, nope, that's not true. I'm not willing to talk about that, or walk away, or hopefully if it's a romantic relationship, you can get out of it. But boundaries, that's the other thing to prevent violence. Have boundaries. And if you have an anger issue and you know you have an anger issue, get help. It's really hard to fix a problem from the brain that created it. That's an Einstein quote that I didn't say quite right. But you can't fix a problem with the same brain that created it. So if you have an anger problem, you need somebody else to help you understand where that's coming from and heal some past trauma possibly, or if you've been abused or bullied and you have a lot of anger inside you, it has to be healed so that you then don't act out of that damaged part of yourself. You want to act out of the state of love, not the damaged part of yourself. The damaged part of yourself comes from your ego, and it's not your fault if you were abused or you were hurt and you are reacting to that, but it is up to you as an adult to heal that so you don't take it out on other people, especially children. I mean, children are such a gift, and we need to help them love themselves too, so that we can create a different future for our kids and other people's kids and our animals and everyone that we love. So keep in mind that boundaries are sometimes all you can do, but that's still a very loving thing to do. And also remember that it's okay to make mistakes. I know, you know, it's so easy to compare ourselves now to other people. It's right there where everything, other people seem to be doing better, all of that. And none of that will help you come from a place of love or be at peace. So just notice it. Just notice. So be an observer. That's the other technique, is be an observer. Notice what you're doing. Notice what you're telling yourself. Don't get down on yourself for judging yourself or anybody else. The thoughts just come. So when the thoughts come, you just go, oh, wow, can't believe I thought that. I don't believe that, so I don't need to feel bad about it. I don't believe it, so I'm not acting on it. So don't believe your negative thoughts about yourself or anybody else. Question them. Go, is that something I need to work on? Is that something I need to communicate to the other person? Question your thoughts. Don't just believe them. And that will help a lot in this whole process of learning to come from a place of love and ending family violence. Thanks for being with me.